We're back. So this project is using AI, namely Cursor.ai. It's an IDE that has access to multi-parallel agents, and it has access to pretty much every LLM provider that's on market right now. When we last finished off, I walked you through the process of setting up a GitHub account, creating the initial landing page with Cursor, and using Cursor and Vercel to deploy to an actual website. I am just showing you what the static web page looks like. It's not 100% complete. In this video, I'll be focused on how to actually improve it in terms of the overall design. So the first thing that I'm looking at, we don't have any headers. We don't have anything at the top of the page that helps someone navigate. You'll notice as I scroll, it's a static page. There's nothing that pulls someone's attention into it. It's clean, it's neat, and it goes through my design process and downloading a free readiness checklist. Right now, this checklist doesn't even have anything connected to it. I haven't done that part. Some of the text, it could be better positioned. What client's saying about me. I actually want to add framer motion to make this a little bit dynamic. Again, these are directly from my LinkedIn profile. So one of the things that I could do is to bring in the images of the actual people from my LinkedIn, so their icons, to make it look more realistic. And then let's build something together. We don't have anything set up right now. The first thing that I actually want to walk through is that we actually are going to hop over to the local environment. This is still currently running, and I just want to show you the difference between the local and actual production. So the process is develop on local, you stage and commit to your GitHub account, and if you have Vercel connected to your GitHub account, it automatically deploys to Vercel to where people can actually access it on the domain that you set up in GoDaddy. I'm just going to refresh it really quick. I have the console open. From a development perspective, you always want to make sure that the console is open so you can see if there's any errors. So right now, we're in the clear. We don't have any errors. It's extremely static. There's nothing dynamic about it. Local environment, before my internet bugged out on me and crashed after an hour of recording, I didn't get a chance to show you what framer motion is. Framer motion is a package that allows a little bit of motion and dynamic action because we're trying to capture people's attention. Notice when I refresh it, the images load dynamically. As I scroll down the page, like that book call, you see how that jumps out. Problem, AI systems don't scale. The case studies, you see how I hover, it has a hover effect. And then as I continue scrolling, you see how those boxes roll in. All right, so now the first step that I'm going to do is making sure that when I commit to GitHub, it should auto deploy to Vercel. And if that's not happening, we're going to troubleshoot the issue really quick. So I'm going to go over to my GitHub account. Just open this up again. I'm in my GitHub. I see Portfolio V2. Let me just refresh this because it didn't pick up on the changes. I want to go to my commits. There was a commit that happened basically 1 hour ago, and you see the little X box. You see it says finances demystified committed 1 hour ago. So essentially I did some consulting work for this company, and I'm still actively making updates in their GitHub repository, and something from my email is still associated with them for that project. So what's happening right now is this is a live debugging exercise. All right, so I'm going to go in, and I'm in Cursor. I'm going to create a new tab. And again, if you watch the video number 1, Cursor is just the IDE environment where you have access to agents. You can build a plan and you can just ask AI. Each of these has its own different cost structure. So the first thing that I'm going to ask it is, what GitHub account am I signed into? And if I commit, what email is associated with the commits? All right, so I'm gonna let this think, and I'm gonna let it tell me what's going on. It's going and saying git config username. I'm setting the username and the config email. So now we see that everything's set up correctly. So now whenever I make this commit, I'm gonna say stage and commit push to remote. So now what's going to happen, it shouldn't fail out. So the commit always worked, but the thing is the reference that it was picking up in Vercel. So example, I'm gonna go to Vercel really quick. I'm gonna jump to Vercel, Vercel.com, and I should still be logged in. So you see here, I need to log out, all right? And then I need to log back in to my b.jackson account. This is my own user's account. All right, now it's showing portfolio v2. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this information up here and I'm gonna just add it just to be safe. This is the Vercel account that should deploy. Can you confirm this is accurate? All right, so now I'm making sure it's looking at the Vercel files and it's still saying demystify Inc. and projects not found. So I'm gonna let it go through a couple steps. Now Vercel account confirmed, username, your git commit matches. The repository is linked to Vercel project deployments. Will use the account b.jackson. So now I'm gonna say stage and commit modified files, push to remote. I'm gonna jump back over to my GitHub account and everything completed successfully. So now, whenever I'm actually in GitHub, keeps exiting out for some reason. I shouldn't see the little X mark anymore. So let's go to portfolio v2. In portfolio v2, I have another commit. And now I'm committed from Brandon Todd Jackson. I just committed right now. And it's saying all checks have failed, deployment has failed. Now I want to look at why is this deployment in Vercel failing. And then I'm just going to copy the failure. There's a type error, all right? So this has to do with the new framer update that I just made. I'm going to say using first principles. And I always debug using first principles. And in the last session, I essentially showed you how I added context and I added a file called first principles. So I'm saying using first principles, resolve this error in Vercel. And in Vercel, again, is the deployment environment to where we're making this thing live to the internet. And I'm also going to say use sequential thinking MCP. All right. So it's going to go off. It's going to use first principles. There's something going on in the case studies. Framer motion, it manages transitions. Fix the TypeScript error summary. All right, we're going to keep all. And the build should succeed in Vercel. The animation behavior remains smooth since, all right, so now I'm going to say again, can you stage and commit modified files, push to remote? All right, so planning the next move is going through everything, the case study, that one component. Whenever you're looking at a website, you have separate components. In the website, it has the about section, it has the case studies, context, footer, hero, lead magnet, problem solution, process, and testimonials. This is isolation so that you're not building something off of one full index file. The index file is just referencing these components. Now what should happen is if I go into my GitHub account, if I go into Vercel, I'm gonna go back to deployment. So going back into GitHub, let's see what the issue is. Leo v2. We have 7 commits, and we still have all checks have failed. The details, it's hopping me back over. Now let me read through this again. So failed to compile, type error. So the same thing happened twice. So this may be an issue where we need to just take the Next.js, remove it, add it back in, clear out the node modules, and push again. That gets a little detailed, but I'm gonna just take this. You am getting the same errors. Use at first principles. Don't skip any steps. The changes didn't work, and double check yourself. All right, so I'm gonna add this again. And again, this is real life. This is what happens, is going through sequential thinking The thing is, you want to use this as a learning exercise to figure out what's going on. So fixing the two variant definition, TypeScript errors, direct motion component, transitions are fine, only variant definitions are needed, all right? Checking the remaining definitions. So it's actually checking for, there's TypeScript errors, so we don't see any lint errors, so we should be good. So now this run build is essentially when we're running it locally. If this build fails locally, it'll tell us what the real reason is, and we didn't do this the first time around with that last failure. The build succeeded, so whenever we push to remote again, we should, in theory, be in the clear. So while the previous fix didn't work, they only fixed the one component. Same issue existed in the problem solutions and process. So as I mentioned, the TypeScript, the framer in terms of isolation, it originally happened in the case studies. We fixed that issue, but the same thing happened in the problem solution in the process. Now we're going to do it again. Please stage and commit modified files, push to remote. Now, what we should be able to see, we've ran the build, it built successfully locally. Now we're pushing to the origin, and we shouldn't in GitHub see that little X box, hopefully. But this is the real life iteration and troubleshooting, so we shall see. All right, so we're gonna hop back over into GitHub. First, we can actually verify in Vercel. So whenever you're actually in a deployment in Vercel, you see this identifier. You have to click out of it and go into the portfolio one level up, and it's building. It didn't fail instantly, so we're probably in the clear. We're going to click into this, and at the build logs, we are much further than we were in the last, so I think that we're going to be good on this deployment. So it is ready, and we can hop over to the actual website now. And now we should have in the actual website, Brandon, so you see BrandonToddJackson.com, that we now have a dynamic framer motion system. So now we can move on to the next thing. And the next thing is that there isn't a navigation set up at the header. And then as far as the actual recommendations, I want this to be a little bit more dynamic in reference to full 13. So I'm gonna tell it what I want it to do. I'm gonna hop back into Cursor. So we're making great progress. I'm gonna go ahead and close other chats, and then I'm gonna add a new chat, and I'm gonna tell it, using first principles and sequential thinking, can you audit our page? It looks like we don't have a top navigation bar, and whenever the recommendations, it's only showing 4, but I have 13. I would love for them to, all 13 to be visible. Maybe they can move in from left to right to where they're a little bit more dynamic and they're on a carousel. But I still like that 4-grid system, so I'm gonna tell it, please keep the 4-grid system. I'm gonna tag the file at first principles, 13, and then I'm going to run this. So auditing the page with first principles. So you'll see the first thing is, I understand that we're auditing, I mentioned the top nav bar is missing. Recommendation shows only 4 of the 13 need a carousel that moves left. So it's going in and it's doing all of the things that I needed to do. All right. So the local dev, that local 3000, again, the process is looking at it from what's on our local environment. That's our testing. So we make all of the updates on the local environment, the local dev. We validate that it's fixed. And then we run npm run build just to make sure that it will actually pass and it will deploy into Vercel. But you just need to make sure that if you're working with multiple Vercel accounts, multiple emails accounts associated to Vercel, you just need to make sure that you're logged into the right account. All right, so this thing is chugging away. I'm gonna close out these screens. Do you want to save? All right, I'm gonna close it out so that we don't get distracted, and I'll pull this over so that we can see what's going on a little bit cleaner. You see this thing is lightning fast. This is like having your own development team at your fingertips. So no linter errors were found. Linter errors or TypeScript errors. And the syntax is if there's an extra comma or there's a div that is missing. It's Cranking away, it completed the 5 things, test responsiveness. All right, so now what we can do, we're going to keep all, and we're going to hop over to the local host version of this, that local 3000. We have an issue. So internal server error. Let's just refresh this really quick. Learning from past mistakes, I know what I want to do now. Please use first principle thinking. We have some issues in the console. Can you close and restart the dev environment and run npm build? I'm gonna drop those issues in there. We're learning as we're going. We're going to remove the cache because that could be what's going on. The cache, you've made an update to the files, and the cache, which makes it load a lot faster, could be conflicting with the updates that you just made. Running the build to make sure that everything works. Creating an optimized production build. All right, so linting and checking validity types, everything is passing. The build was successful, checking testimonials for leftover style JS code. The build succeeded, no compilation errors. All right, so we're gonna npm dev, run dev. Now what this is gonna do is it's gonna bring up the server. The local host 3000 dev server is running. All right, so now we go back over, we refresh it and see if we've resolved the issue. Bam, we've resolved the issue. So BTJ, it's cool. I didn't ask for that, but we have home, we have the case studies, the process, the contact. All right, so now you just have to ask yourself, and then we have the book a call. So it jumps down to the book a call session. And we've added the nav bar. I'm not 100% sure I like the justification or the alignment on the nav bar. One thing that I want to do, I don't want to lean on my own expertise. I actually want to go and use AI to figure out with a nav bar what's best practice. And so I want to give a screenshot. I want to take a screenshot of my nav bar, and I actually want to just hop into Perplexity or Claude, or actually I'm going to use Claude because we have our project set up there. So I'm going to jump back into projects. I'm going to go to portfolio, and in this thread, I'm going to pop it in, and I'm going to give it the date because sometimes these models are outdated. So it's November 1st, 2025. All right, so it's November 1st, 2025. I'm creating a personal portfolio. I'm working on the top page nav bar. I'm not sure if the alignment works. Could you look at best practices as of today and let me know if I need to make any updates? All right, so this is going to tell me what are the best practices in terms of web development. Again, I know code, I know Python, I know TypeScript, but I'm going to ask for help. Potential improvements to consider: visual hierarchy, home, have similar visual, okay, for each. Consider if one should be more prominent based on your primary user's journey. Spacing and alignment, the gap between your centered navigation links and right alignment seemed quite large. Overall verdict: your navigation follows 2025 best practices. The main opportunity is refining the spacing balance between the center links and the right call to action. The current layout works, but tightening. All right, would you like me to suggest specific spacing adjustments or explore alternative? Okay, can you suggest the specific spacing adjustments? All right, so I'm going to take this, and now I'm just going to drop it in. It's giving me options. Option 2, tighter center alignment, recommended center viewpoint. Okay, go with option 1. It maintains your centered navigation aesthetic, but creates better visual balance. All right, so I'm just going to go with option number 1. And I'm just going to take this, I'm gonna hop back into Vercel, and now I should see a nav bar component. All right, so look, we have a new component. This wasn't here at first. We just added it. So now we know that if anything happens, if there's any issues, it's the nav bar. All right, so can you update the nav bar? at navbar based on the below recommendations and make sure the app builds after you fix it. Okay, so updating the nav component for a tighter center alignment. Then we're going to run build, creating the optimized build. Let's see if it passes. Boom, boom. All right, so we're good to go. Now we're going to stage and commit the modified files and push to remote. What should happen in this scenario, now that we have a cycle down to where we're ensuring that the build passes, once we stage commit to the remote GitHub environment, since it's connected to Vercel, it should automatically update and push these updates to our live website. So I'm going to jump into Vercel just to see what's going on there. I'll hop into Portfolio V2, and then I want to go to deployments. It's building right now. So we know that it pushed successfully because this wouldn't trigger if it didn't. Just to recap what we did in this video, we took a static website, we installed Framer Motion, we did a little bit of debugging and troubleshooting because once we added new components, there was an issue with the cache. We cleared that cache and then we ran the build, and now we can pop in and we'll go to the actual website, and we've successfully added a dynamic build to our website. And now the last thing that we have to validate is whether or not, all right, now we have the carousel to where we can see everything that's been added. So I actually want the carousel to run on its own, and I want the spacing to be optimized, and that'll be the last thing that we fixed here on today on this call. Now, the last thing that I'm gonna do, so I like the updates that were made on the carousel. I wanna make sure that the padding on all of the cards are congruent and aligned. It looks like there's different levels just because there's different amount of text per recommendation. Can you fix that so it's more visually appealing? And I want the carousel to circulate. I want the carousel to move on its own. Right now, it's been a long day, so we're just going to let the AI do a little bit of the thinking for us and just hope that it understood the context. It's planning the next move, and you want to always keep an eye on the context. So the context is how much the LLM has in its brain right now. So we're at 40%. The one thing that I would recommend is once it gets to the 50%, just start a new chat. It's going through, it's updating the testimonial, and is running the build. Let's see if the build passes. It's made some updates. If the build passes, we'll stage and commit and push to remote, and then we'll conclude the call. This is another reason why we want to run the build, because it didn't pass. Now it updated a couple of things and it's testing it out again. All right, so no linter errors. There's still some formatting issues. This is where if we would have deployed, we would have gone into an error loop where if we just run the npm run build, it catches these things in advance for us. All right, so the build was successful. Let's go for the local host. Can you make sure the cards are the same size and we just scroll to see longer formed recommendations? All right, so I didn't like it. I don't like how it's weird. So I'm adding a little bit of complexity. I'm adding to the cards. I'm making them the same length, but now I have to add a scrolling functionality. We have to figure out, we may have to do a couple iterations on this before it actually works the way that we want it to work. So I want the names of the people who recommended to be always visible, okay? It's not doing that. It's gonna run the build. Let's see if it passes successfully before we do the next iteration. This is why you want to be a little bit more specific in terms of what you're looking for. So this is good. The cars are the same size, but I always want the name of the individual who gave the recommendation to be visible. So within the card, we need to make the text scrollable, and the names of the individuals should be parallel for all cards. So I should be able to read from left to right all of the people who have recommended me. All right, so this is where you're adding a little bit of complexity. But in terms of visual design and understanding what people, I think this is a value added iteration. Let's see what we got. I don't think it understood what we're trying to do. Let's refresh. No, it didn't. Now, this is what I'll do. Screen. Nope. So this first one, this is perfect. Dang it. I gotta hurry up and capture it. All right, so based on the attached image, the first card that has Pearl's name is how I want all the other cards to show up. But if the text is long, I just need to be able to scroll to see the full recommendation. But I should be able to see all of the names like the first card displays Pearl's name. It should be able to pick this up for me. Once this is done, we will close out this call, but this is just another example of how we've gone through the dev process. We implemented Framer Motion. We had to install a new package. We created a new component, the top level nav bar. We made sure that the cache was cleared and we ran npm dev. Now we're going through just more of an aesthetic update to the actual website. And this shows you what you would have to go through if you're just using natural language to actually update and create something. I'm good with this. I want this to be a little bit more dynamic, but we're good to go. So what I'm going to do now is going to keep all of this, stage and commit modified files, push to remote. And once we do this, it will deploy to Vercel and we will have a more functioning website. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to make sure that the actual contact information in terms of being able to book a call with me works. And then we're going to create the lead generation magnet that they're going to download from the website. All right, so let's just hop over to Vercel and see what's going on. Deployments. And if this builds successfully, we will have successfully created a very stunning and engaging website. All right, we're good to go. We can go to the actual website and we'll see that it loads dynamically. I may just update, since I'm trying to build my authority, I may just put this as Brandon Ty Jackson because there's a lot of Brandon Jacksons in the world. We have a fully functioning website that was built in less than 2 hours. And so next we'll have to update the actual case studies. This is another alignment issue that I can fix. You want everything to be visually aligned. And so we'll go through this iteration on the next recording. All right, we're good to go, man.